Hello everybody, it's that Tassie Wargamer here, back on another wintry Sunday here in southern Tasmania. And I thought, I'm not playing today. I was meant to be having a game of sharp practice today. Unfortunately, my gaming buddy has come down with a bug. He's had the COVID test, unfortunately. Look, it's unlikely he's going to have it because we've now been 4 weeks without any cases in Tasmania and well over 50 odd days without any new cases. So even the people that had it now don't have it anymore. So we're doing all right. Our borders are in lockdown. So no one else can travel here. So Tasmania are looking okay. Eventually we're going to have to open the borders, but we'll see what happens then. Something different today. Rather than looking at miniatures or painting or one of the brief rundowns of our games, I thought I'd look at what's in the bag. Now, I've seen a lot of what's in the bags before when it comes to photography. People open up their camera bag and show what's in the camera bag and all sorts of expensive items and little doohickeys. But for me, I just thought I'd show another part of my hobby, which is sort of, I don't know, I like collecting bits and pieces that I see as possibly important or as useful in the hobby. And I thought I'd take you guys through it. Not many of them are expensive because I tend to be a bit of a looking for cheap things rather than expensive items, although I did treat myself to an expensive item recently. This bag here is just one of those travel, it's not a laptop bag, it's big, about the size of a laptop bag but thicker. I don't know what you call it, a attaché case or something like that. Would have picked up second hand at a store somewhere because I never really had much use for it. I have used it once for travelling, but I saw the importance of it as being able to hold a fair bit of stuff for my gaming. I travel now for gaming. I used to always go to a mate's place about an hour away, and now I travel about half an hour most Sundays up to Hobart. So it's not very often I play. I don't play very often at home. I don't have anyone to play with here. I've tried getting family involved, and no one's really interested. So as a result, I have to be reasonably portable. So I have my miniatures on an oven tray. I have 2 large plastic containers full of terrain, another one full of trees, and then I carry this as well. And this one is great. I call it a bit of a grab bag because everything I need for a game is in there, so every week I don't have to go running around looking for my other bits and pieces. So in the front bit here, I've just got some pens and a notebook. Often I'll be writing quick notes down about a game, or if we're coming up with a scenario up there, I might just quickly jot out my army right there and then. I'll normally travel with my entire army for sharp practice, obviously, because it doesn't have to be too huge. More importantly, into this part of the container, I put the rulebook here, but normally that would be in the back part, just with a few other bits and pieces, but always the rulebook that I'll be using for that day, and maybe a magazine if there's an article or a scenario in it. Last week we played sharp practice, hence sharp practice is in there. Next week this will still be in there, and hopefully very soon get a game of Chain of Command. And then once my infamy rules arrive, hopefully my Romans and Germans will be ready, and I'll be able to get in some infamy. So I always carry the rule book with me. What else is here? This is a bag that I think my mother-in-law made for me. I'm actually after a doubled lined one. God, no, they just look a bit better, but this does the trick for now. In there is all of my tokens. This is from Historique. Remember I showed you those in a video a while back. Slightly smaller tokens, very handy for travelling. I still like the big wooden ones, but we gave these a go last week and they worked all right. So they go in the bag, they're still in there. Often I'll take them out of the bag and put them in the other container that I'm going to show you. So I carry the bag. There's another bag in there. The only problem is John and myself found that it was a little bit harder to get the hand in and shuffling around. That was probably a little bit nicer. It's lined. Probably ordered that off eBay for $1 or $2. A little bit small. If I can get one like that, larger, I'll see if I can get one. I've always just carried a standard tape measure. And this is one that I had with some tools I bought years ago. It's really handy because it's yellow, so it never goes missing on the table. Unfortunately, I took it out a few weeks ago and forgot to put it back in. So I went and bought myself up in my local hobby shop. I ended up going and buying this one here. It was $11, which, you know, the other ones normally cost about $4 or $5. So it was a bit expensive, but I needed it at the time. But the great thing I like about this is when you pull it out, it holds. You don't have to lock. It's the opposite. So a lot of them you pull it out and you have to lock it. This one here, you pull it out, it stays. And it really is a nice, even though, look, it's just a tape measure, designed for wargaming, but apart from that there, really is really nice tape measure to use, millimeters and inches. I once took one up. I bought one on the way to a game from my local hardware store. Got up to there, opened it up. This is a day that I needed to buy a new one, and when I got to the game, I realised I'd only bought one in millimeters, which doesn't help when you're playing in inches. In the bag, I have a dice tray. I've actually ordered a folding one of those folding ones that look pretty good, and it's going to take up a little bit less room, but this sort of, it's only thin, so I get other things in it. This was from my local, what I call shiploads, $2 shop. It was one of those trays that, you know, you can put cutlery in. I went and bought a little bit of cheap foam in there, and that just stops them rolling around. It holds the dice really nicely, a little bit more durable than felt. I've actually got a red one and a blue one. Blue one's somewhere around now holding some miniatures. I don't really need the two. If I was gaming at home, I'd probably have one down either end. That's really handy. I like that one. Probably a little bit deep, so if you're over the other side of the table, you can't see all the rolls. Hence, I'm going for a purpose-built foldable one where the side's going to be a bit shallower. Dice. Just a kid's pencil case. I've never bought expensive dice. These are cheap ones you can get from on eBay. I bought different colours, so they have different different uses. I've got that one out because he shouldn't be in there. I always prefer to have too many than not enough. So, and sometimes if I'm having a bad roll, I'll change colours. It doesn't help, but it feels good. And I've got that open so I can see them. It's a clear one, so I can see through them at any one time. Which should we look at next? Oh, I'll pull this out. A bag of Dorper wool. Luckily, I live in a rural property. I don't have any sheep. I've got lots of wallabies and other native animals hopping around. Luckily, my neighbour has Dorper sheep. Now, Dorpers don't need shearing. They come up to the fence and rub all their wool off on the fence. And I could probably get 100 bags of this, and in 6 months' time, get another 100 bags. That's how much wool they shed. It's a little bit dirty, really. I guess black powder should be whiter, but it's good for it. It was free, a bit more durable, and also it looks like if I'm burning tanks or whatever in chain of command or water tanker, it's always a bit dirtier, so it looks a bit more like dirty smoke. Got some skirmish bases. Originally bought them for Saga. Really, they don't need to be in here because I don't use them too often. I don't know why they're in there, but they're my cards for muskets and tomahawks. Haven't used it in ages. A couple here that are really important. Dice container. Yeah, I carry it with me. I could easily only take some at any one time, but it fits pretty easy in the case. Nicely defined. I'm going to put my direction dice back in wherever it belongs. I'll chuck it down there. So I've got a bit of everything in there. My chain command, I've got bolt action dice. I don't really play bolt action, but they fit. And recently I bought some different sided dice. I was planning on getting into a rule set where they use different sided dice. I can't remember the name of the rule set offhand now. Yeah, it's a modern rule set by Ambush Alley. So I bought different ones. Haven't really got into it yet. Also got the Saga dice. Anyway, yeah, rather than separating them, I just keep them all in there. Nice little container. My second one, dice, different chits. Again, some I use, some I don't use. Regularly use Sharp Practice. I recently painted up my chain of command ones. The larger chain of command deployments there. The laser that draws the line. So if you're trying to do line of sight, it does come in handy. I've got my Sharp Practice tokens. I've got my chain of command tokens. I've got my water tanker tokens. These things I really like. I picked these up cheap from a craft store. So I'm probably wobbling the camera because I'm leaning on this stool that the camera's on. These are really handy. Originally, I bought them as fatigue markers or shock markers. But in Sharp Practice, sometimes strange things happen to your your officers. Like I said, you saw in last week's game, two officers in the game stood in dog poo and had their rank reduced by 1. So what we did is we just dropped these next to the unit that the officer was with. So it would give us a reminder every turn that there was something that we needed to consider for that unit. And it works really well because you look at it straight away and go, that's right, that unit's not operating at its full efficiency. It's got damp squib, or the officer's been reduced. We've got white ones and black ones. I bought them like 50 cents per packet, or 20 cents per packet. And they have come in handy, so I would recommend getting something like that. And I like the exclamation mark because it's basically saying, something's up. For sharp practice, for a while I used these, or trialed it. I always like trialing different things. Use these slightly larger washers, 30mm washers, I think, with numbers to indicate the officer. I don't know, just detracted a little bit from it. So yeah, don't use those anymore. Before I ordered, I think from memory, I must have ordered Sharp Practice, just the book, and then ordered the bits and pieces later. And because I didn't have the bits and pieces, I went and bought these coloured mini pop sticks and actually wrote out so I had the numbers, as you can see there, the numbers for the officer, the officers, as well as the command and uncontrolled and present on there as well. They worked really well. But now, of course, I've got the good ones. I do like using these because it means I'm putting money back into the people that make the rules, and they don't make miniatures, so they really need to try to support them. And that's it in that one. Recently refurbished my chain of command, some of my Sharp Practice stuff, because I'm still learning how to deal with MDF. So that's that one there. And then these ones here used to live in there, but I found rather than having that big container and fiddling with it, I end up putting them into these smaller hobby ones. Now these are the ones we generally use a bit more often. I'll start with the top. We've used these ones in the past. Originally I didn't have enough, but I got some with Sharp Practice, and I got some again with Chain of Command. And these are the really nice plastic tokens for shock that come with the Two Fat Ladies rule books if you buy the big bundles. The only problem is they are a little bit big and a little bit obtrusive on the table. Ended up going through my hobby store and found a few of these, and what I realised, these were all just plain little people, and I painted them up. So what I thought I'd do is, this one would indicate 1 point of shock, the orange would be 5, and the red could indicate 10. So rather than having heaps of them as they built up, I would replace 5 yellow with an orange, and then I'd maybe replace 2 orange with the red, or do something similar. Ended up going away from that because I've got some better shock tokens. So now John and myself tried last week, just to give an illustration on the table, is whenever somebody died, we just chucked one. It didn't really matter which one, but we chucked one of these down. So we could actually see on the table how many deaths there had been, and it was not bad actually. It worked out quite well. Doesn't add to the game, but adds to the visual impact of where the deaths were occurring. These ones are very similar. I had the 2 just yellows and reds in there, so it would be 5 yellows, and then I'd replace the yellow with a red, or maybe 10 yellows for a red. Haven't really used them too much. Again, I like trialing different things. These are the shock tokens that I use mostly now. This is from a jewelry section of the art store uptown. They're just like plastic pearlescent. They're not very big. They're quite small, so I could easily have 10 of these piled up in a little pile behind a unit and not taking up too much room. They're bright, so we're not going to lose them on the table. We'll see them if there's one that's not near a unit. We'll know that, oh, that belongs to that unit, and we move them up. I prefer them to stand out a little bit. I originally bought them, I reckon, when we were playing the pirate one, Blood and Plunder, because it sort of looked a little bit like sort of jewels. But anyway, these ones I really like, and I've tried using dials, and I find dials are really irritating because my opponent knows what shock they have, but visually indicative, I can't see what type of shock my opponent has, and likewise for me. So I much prefer to have something where we can actually see at a glance how much shock a unit has. Anyway, 15 minutes is just about up. I hope you enjoyed that. See you next time. Goodbye.